You're watching Alabama's WVUA News at 10.
The largest airport in the state is renewing their look. I'm Tara Rowe, and coming up, I'll give you a sneak peek.
It was a blizzard of epic proportions. I'm Travis Leader, and I'll have more on the 20th anniversary of the storm of the century coming up.
Plus a look at the day ahead, including the next step in selecting a new pope. And the first man to break the color barrier of the faculty at UA is honored. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tamika Alexander. We begin tonight at the Birmingham-Shuttlesworth Airport. A new renovated terminal will open at 4 in the morning. WVUA's Tara Rowe takes you inside for a sneak peek.
The $200 million project includes better parking, a centralized checkpoint between concourses, new restaurants, and a play area for kids.
We needed a post-9/11 airport. The infrastructure, the previous facility, was really in total disrepair, so the project had to happen.
Alabama is visible throughout the terminal. Video artwork shows images of state history. Retail shops carry themes such as the Alabama Theater, and local dining options will open.
When passengers or visitors to our region are introduced to Birmingham, they truly are introduced to Birmingham.
The renovation wasn't just about appearance. The airport also took on green technology, like with these light shelves which project light onto the white ceiling back down to the floor. This also helps with energy cost.
We have a lot of social responsibilities to the community, and I think sustainability and being environmentally friendly is a big part of that.
We did not build an airport just for today. We built the airport for the future.
Reporting in Birmingham, Tara Rowe, WVUA News.
Denson says tomorrow's opening is the first phase of the airport renovations. The final renovations rather should be complete by spring or summer of 2014. 20 years ago today, a massive snowstorm took its toll on the entire state of Alabama. WVUA's Travis Leader has this report from the National Weather Service in Calera and tells us more about the historic nature of what some call the storm of the century.
The blizzard of 1993 was a historic snowstorm that meteorologists here at the National Weather Service in Calera still marvel to this day.
We had snowfall in every square inch of Alabama, some measurable snowfall, which is really a very hard event to come by. Snowfall extended perhaps from Alabama all the way through Maine.
And while some saw it as a winter wonderland for Alabama, it turned into a frozen nightmare for a state with an abundance of pine trees and a lack of snowplows.
The trees come down. They come down on the roadways. You can't drive. Not only were the roads icy, you had these large trees on the roads that officials had to actually cut off the highways before you could travel. The storm was costly for the state and the country. More than a dozen Alabamians lost their lives because of the blizzard, and the storm's impact cost $2 billion nationwide. This, along with record snowfalls across the state, are why some say it's okay to call it the storm of the century.
We had never seen anything like that up until that point, and we still haven't seen anything like it. So for that storm to occupy the storm of the century moniker, I'm okay with that.
Well, I think it's safe to say it was a record-setting storm for Alabama. It was our winter storm of the century, and in fact of all history, weather history that we have for central Alabama. DeBlock says meteorologists at the National Weather Service worked up to 2.5 days straight during the blizzard. Another headache they had to deal with was the snowfall on the satellite. They would have to sweep it off the dish in order to get their weather data. Reporting in Calera, Travis Leader, WVUA News.
The snow did not melt immediately after it fell. Temperatures even dropped into the single digits, which meant the snow stuck around for several days. To continue our coverage of the blizzard of 93, let's turn to Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott, who joins us now. Richard, there was a lot of snow that day.
Yeah, a whole lot of snow, Tamika. Something we don't see very often. How about this graphic? 10 to 20 inches of snow actually fell during that day, or those 2-day time frames there, March 12th and 13th. In fact, all of West Alabama getting about 4 to 10 inches of snow. I was actually down in Linden and Marengo County at the time. I had about 10 inches of snow down there. And even down to Alabama's Gulf Coast, we are talking some snow totals even that far south, 1 to 4 inches. How about that? So something we don't see very often, but about 20 years ago dealing with that massive blizzard across the state, so something fun to see out there for a lot of people. Other folks, it was just a big headache. No snow to talk about tonight, though. We're dealing with colder air. 48 in Tuscaloosa, 41 in Haleyville. We have Reform checking in at 48 now, 47 down at Linden, and Marion reporting 50 degrees. Satellite and radar, no cloud cover to deal with, will stay dry. In fact, tomorrow morning, the bus stop forecast, we're talking temperatures at around 34 degrees. So cold start to the day, but it will warm up. Your forecast is straight ahead, so stick around.
Those sequestration budget cuts from Washington could mean Tuscaloosa would lose its air traffic control tower, and one air control traffic controller is trying to get the message out that he thinks that's a very bad idea. Tuscaloosa Regional Airport is on the list for losing its control tower. Now, this is where the controllers keep planes a safe distance from each other. Tuscaloosa controller Russell Davis has been working to make sure the closure doesn't happen. He believes it could have a very negative impact for the city, affecting the city's revenue and pilot safety.
Well, if you look up in the tower right now through the glass windows, you'll see the one controller or probably even two if the airfield, if our manager's up there. If you don't see any, when we close April 7th, that's what you're going to see, an empty tower. There will be no one here to replace it.
If lawmakers do not reach a deal soon, Davis and the other controllers will lose their jobs. Today, students and staff at the University of Alabama gathered to honor the first African-American professor on the UA campus. The ceremony is part of the 50th anniversary Through the Doors program at the capstone. Dr. Archie Wade was joined by University of Alabama President Dr. Judy Bonner and helped unveil the marker that will hang in his honor. Dr. Wade became a professor of kinesiology in February of 1970. Wade says that during his 30 years at the capstone, his students are what he enjoyed most.
The most enjoyable part of my time here was with the students. I enjoyed the faculty and meetings and all that, but I really enjoyed the students. And what's good about it now is you still hear from them.
The marker will hang in Moore Hall to remember Dr. Wade's struggles and accomplishments at the University of Alabama. From gun violence to gun control, people are talking about the right to bear arms. This heavily debated subject brought students at the University of Alabama together to discuss the issues around the loaded topic. Students spoke openly about the meaning of the Second Amendment and how it should be interpreted today. They debated whether a national gun register would be beneficial, if you should be required to be trained with your firearm before purchasing it, and if more thorough background checks would cut down on gun violence. These students never came to an agreement on what can be done to solve pressing gun issues, but they believe that being informed is the best way to approach gun rights.
You know, I think it's a good thing for everybody to become informed on whether they have a strong opinion on it or not. They should know what's happening, you know, in the Supreme Court, in the government, with the people of the United States.
It's just education, I think, is the key point of the whole thing, and that's what we need to do. And I think that's actually what's going on, because you don't see an instant ban on everything out of emotion. I feel like actually the Senate, you know, we're doing a good job of thinking about it rather than rushing something through.
Students also gathered after the event to speak on gun violence in more detail. Well, two well-known coaches spoke at the University of Alabama to students about personal character development. Alabama gymnastics coach Sarah Patterson and former Florida State University football coach Bobby Bowden gave advice on improving yourself. Coach Patterson tells students to invest their time and to be the author of your own life. Press Secretary of the Student Government Megan Bryant says the strong coaching background provides an experience students cannot get anywhere else.
Character sometimes can fall by the wayside, so it's really important to bring that to the light and have such great speakers that have these life experiences that students can learn from.
Patterson has 35 years of coaching experience and Bowden has 57. The two encouraged Alabama students to use the Capstone Creed as a part of their everyday life. Well, the first day of voting at the Vatican's papal conclave has ended with no decision yet on the next Roman Catholic spiritual leader. WVUA's Daniel Sparkman joins us now with more on what happened today and a look ahead at tomorrow.
Tamika, thousands of people gathered in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican today waiting for some sign from the Sistine Chapel, and that sign came around 1:40 Central Time this afternoon. Black smoke billowed from the chapel, signaling that cardinals did not select a pope on the first ballot. When the next leader of the Roman Catholic Church is chosen, white smoke will rise from the historic chapel. 115 cardinals are meeting in private to select the next pope. The first candidate to get 2/3 of the votes will be named the successor to Pope Benedict XVI.
It's not like somebody stands up and says, I think you ought to vote for there's no campaign speeches, none of that. There's a very complicated process of balloting that takes about an hour or so to perform.
Person who is chosen has to be someone who loves to pray, leads public prayer with great enthusiasm and devotion, and prays privately and continually.
And on Wednesday, they begin with 4 votes each day. There will be 2 in the morning. The first comes at 4:30 a.m. Central Time. The second vote at 6 a.m. There will also be 2 in the afternoon, 1 at 11 a.m. and the final vote of the day at 1 p.m. Central Time. If there's still no one chosen as Pope at that point, voting will resume again on Thursday. Now, if you still want to keep up with the latest updates live from the Vatican, well, there's an app for that. The Conclave app offers video from Vatican TV, a Twitter feed following #Conclave and #Pope, bios of all of the cardinals that gauges who's getting the most online buzz, and info about every conclave dating back to, get this, 1061. The app is free and available through your app store. Tamika.
Thanks, Daniel. Also in the day ahead, you have the chance to say goodbye to Tuscaloosa County Sheriff Ted Sexton before he heads to California for a new job. The public is invited to stop by and say goodbye to Sexton tomorrow. Sexton is going to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, where he will be the new head of Homeland Security. His office says you can stop by the hangar between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow, located at Robert Cardinal Airport Road at Tuscaloosa Regional Airport. When WVUA News at 10 returns, dozens of spring breakers are sent tumbling to the ground when the deck they're on collapses. Plus, a school bus in South Alabama crashes, sending nearly a dozen to the hospital. And the Crimson Tide baseball team was looking to put the end to a 4-game losing skid tonight at home against Memphis. Gary Harris will have the highlights later in Home Team Sports. But before we go to break, don't forget to follow your home team on Twitter for the latest in news, sports, and weather.